And earlier today, just before the show, I spoke with Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, Democrat from New Jersey, a member of the Armed Services Committee who served nearly a decade in the Navy as a helicopter pilot, and Congressman Jim Banks, Republican from Indiana, also a member of the Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committees. So both of you veterans, both of you members of the Armed Services Committee, and here we are on these grounds that are just very powerful, very moving, I know, for both of you. Congresswoman, this is also personal for you. Your grandfather, I believe, was shot down over Normandy. Tell us about that.
Well, my grandfather's the reason I joined the service, and he was a pilot in World War II. He flew B-24s. He was shot down in August of 1944 over Normandy and was rescued by the Free French and hidden until he could gain his freedom.
What does it mean for you to be here today?
Well, it's just so moving to be here, to hear the stories. Omaha Beach was where some of the toughest fighting took place. The casualties were huge, just huge losses. And so I think we realize, sitting here today, how much our generation owes to that generation for our freedoms, and how we really can't take any of that for granted.
And Congressman, like me, it's your first time here to Normandy and to this cemetery. And when you look around and when you listen to the program that we just listened to, what goes through your mind?
Well, just imagining the history is a surreal experience to be a part of the ceremony today, but to take a step back and think about what happened here 75 years ago from today. My generation of veterans rest on the shoulders of the courage and the sacrifice of the greatest generation, and that's what I've come to really realize more and more today as I think more about what happened here. Meeting some of the veterans who were here that day, shaking their hand, thanking them for their service, and having conversations with them about what happened. Those are experiences I will never forget.
And those are messages that we heard from the stage from both President Macron, the French president, and President Trump. So I'll ask both of you, do you think that President Trump in this instance rose to meet this solemn and important occasion?
I do. His message today was not political. It was a somber message about the sacrifice of the greatest generation. I thought President Macron, too, what he said when he said that America is the greatest when we fight for the freedom of others was maybe the most powerful line of the day.
Did you see it as a message aimed at President Trump?
Not necessarily. I think both of them shared a similar message rooted in that theme, and President Trump understands as well that America's role in the world is significant, and we need to preserve that role that we play.
Congresswoman, how about you?
I agree. I thought that line was wonderful, and I think it just reaffirmed the value of our NATO allies, the value of how we can project our values in democracy across the world when we stand together.
Do you believe the president represented that here today?
I think he did. I think he did a nice speech. He talked a lot about the people who served and the heroism today.
The stories.
The stories were wonderful.
He also had a line in there that I'd like to ask you about. May God bless our allies. But this is a president, of course, who has in certain instances dismissed our allies, thumbed his nose at our allies, worked to find new alliances with traditional adversaries like North Korea. Does the rhetoric match the reality here?
Well, this president's certainly been tough on our NATO allies, calling on them to give more, contribute more to their national defense and in the defense of Europe and our shared national security goals. So even and that's even led to more defense spending overall. So I give the president a lot of credit for that being a successful, tough message. But he was here today, and you saw the relationship between him and President Macron, and I was struck by a cordial relationship between the two, that hopefully that relationship will carry on for years to come.
And let me ask you, because so much of today's message was about unity. Unity not just as Americans, but as sort of these global citizens in this post-war order. And you're also dealing with questions of unity in your party back home, domestically. There's reporting out that Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, talked about wanting to see the president potentially in handcuffs. What message does that send to the rest of your caucus when it comes to unity? Do you think that's appropriate?
You know, I certainly think what we need to focus on today is the unity that we talked about, we heard about on the stage. You know, reinforcing the need to work with our NATO allies. I think that's why we see one of the largest congressional delegations ever here today to show the sense of Congress that when we stand together, we really are at the strongest that America can be.
So no concerns about Speaker Pelosi talking about handcuffs and the president?
You know, I hadn't heard that. I've been in the air for most of the night and then most of this morning on the Chinooks, so I'll have to go back and look at that.
Okay.
I want to give Speaker Pelosi credit. She invited every veteran member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, to come here today to be a part of this ceremony, and she deserves a lot of credit as the Speaker of the House for doing that.
Thank you both so much for being here and being here with us on this day. I appreciate you joining the show.